from the U.S. to the U.K. And I hope you're having a great morning. And it is a privilege for us to be with you guys today. And I want to thank you for your sacrifice of time of just letting us be here. And so you're going to get a flavor from different dialects. I know that you guys speak the proper English over there in the UK, but you've got a Southern United States guy here speaking to you, so I have a tendency not to complete my words. So I ask your forgiveness to begin with. Then we'll have a couple people that are not from the South that will be on this today, and they will definitely be speaking a little more proper English from the Midwest and from the West part of the United States. But again, thank you for allowing us to be here with you guys today. So my name is Tracy Roper, and I am with Chick-fil-A. I'm sure that Mark has done a good job of already setting this up. I know that many of you have probably read our biographies, so we won't belabor that point anymore about who we are and personally, but we'll talk more about that in just a second. But I do want to talk about this whole idea of being on the journey to becoming the world's most caring company. A few years ago, we had different mission statements, and we'll talk about it a little bit. But then we moved into this realm of what's next for Chick-fil-A. And because of our wanting to think about the future and trying to be intentional about what we do and our calling, which hopefully will come very clear through this presentation today, you will see that we do want to be on this journey to becoming the world's most caring company, because we realize that's the main reason why we're here, and that's to care for people. Next slide, please, Tara. And so what you're going to see on this presentation today, a couple of things. You're going to see the slides move. You're going to see different people pop up. But Tara Hall, who you won't see today, is actually our administrator who is making all of this happen. So we're all remote here. We're not in the same place. I'm in Georgia near Atlanta. Andre, who you'll see in a minute, is in Atlanta, and I already made reference to a couple of people being other places in the United States, and Tara is in the Atlanta area too, but we're all in different places. So I'm going to have to tell her when to turn the slide, so be patient with us on that. So who is Chick-fil-A? I know that we had talked about for the longest time, times I've been over before and have been a part of this event with Mark and Joanna and One Rock, that many of you probably know about Chick-fil-A, but just for those people that aren't as familiar, I'm just going to go through some just statistics that would get you up to speed on who we are. First of all, Chick-fil-A as a corporation began in 1964. Now, you'll find out in the history that the idea of Chick-fil-A actually was way before 1964, but we actually became incorporated as Chick-fil-A Inc. in 1964. We're currently the largest chicken restaurant chain in the United States, and our hero product, our number one product, the thing that we sell the most of on our menu is our Chick-fil-A sandwich, which is a skinless, boneless breast of chicken. It's seasoned to perfection, and we cook it in peanut oil, and we serve it on a toasted buttered bun with 2 dill pickle slices. And I know you guys in the UK, you refer to pickle as a little different than we refer to pickles. For you, it would be a dill gherkin, I guess, is what you would say. But you'll see the picture of the sandwich in a next slide here in just a moment. But we're currently in the United States and Canada only. We are looking at the UK, and we are looking at other places in Europe to open in the next few years. But we currently have about 2,589 locations in our organization. Last year, our total sales exceeded over $12 billion. And we're actually currently, even with COVID and the pandemic, we are trending over 13 billion this year. And so that's going very well. Our 2019 transactions, that means the times that people actually came in and purchased something in our restaurants, we had over a billion transactions. So that means over a billion times people came to our location, or they ordered from our location, and we had a transaction. In general, our company is almost a total franchise organization. As a matter of fact, our desire would be to be 100% franchised at all times. But because of our model and the way we set up things, we have a handful of company run restaurants at any time, but those are usually temporary. But our franchise model, our franchisees are called operators. When you see me refer to that or hear me refer to that in any of these slides, we're talking about our franchisees. And like I said, we currently have less than 100 company-owned or operated locations. The rest of them are operated by our operators. Next slide, please, Tara. So these are the people that are going to be on the call with you today. Myself, I'm in field operations. Andre, who has been with Chick-fil-A on staff for about 14 years. He is in our leadership development program. You've probably read his bio. And then Ruthie and Karen are two of our elaborate and wonderful franchisees. They are our operators. Ruthie is in Kansas City, in the Kansas City area, in St. Joseph, in the Midwest, and then Karen is out in Colorado, out in Aurora, which is a suburb of Denver. Next slide, please. So a little bit about our history, so you guys know a little bit more about what we are talking about and why Chick-fil-A and our success and all of that type stuff. Our founder, S. Truett Cathy, and the S stands for Samuel, if anyone ever asks you that question, but S. Truett Cathy, he actually opened his first restaurant in 1946, and he called it the Dwarf Grill because it was a very small location, and it was open 24 hours a day, and very early on, he decided that he was not going to open on Sunday. And the Dwarf Grill, if you go to the location where the Dwarf Grill was, it now is a Dwarf House. It's a little bit larger, and they still serve a little bit different menu. It's more of a typical United States diner fare, hamburgers, different things like that, breakfast, full breakfast. But he opened that in 1946. But over the years, Truett wanted to be able to, as he had chicken on his menu and other things, he wanted to be able to serve chicken to his customers faster, because if he cooked chicken with the bone in it, it usually took a long time to cook. And he was trying to turn his tables very quickly so he could have more customers, more guests, because of the size of the restaurant, for one thing. And so he wanted to increase his transaction. So he took the skin off, he took the bone out of the chicken, and he cooked it under pressure. And it cut the time from like 12 to 13 minutes down to about 4 minutes. And so he was able to get that chicken out. And he realized that he had something there. And so over the next few years, from 1946 up into the late 50s, he started experimenting with the different spices. And you can see the picture here on the slide. He created what we call the first and original Chick-fil-A sandwich. And there's the bun, the 2 dill pickle slices underneath the chicken, and the skinless, boneless breast of chicken that's right there on it. And so it was a hit. And it was, like we said, we've got over 2,500 locations right now. And this is the product that sells the most. And in 1964, he decided to incorporate and begin a journey to open restaurants that only featured the original chicken sandwich. And of course, later years, we introduced other products, but they're still chicken-based, all white meat, breast meat, chicken products. And it was also during this time that he designed our franchise model and began selecting operators to own and operate these locations. So I know that was a really high overview of Chick-fil-A, but I would encourage you, Mark can give you the website, but it's www.chickfila.com, and he'll have to spell that out for you so that you can make sure that you land on it. But I encourage you guys to go to that website to get any information that you might want to know more about Chick-fil-A. And I'm sure there are lots of articles out there on the World Wide Web that you can pull on the internet. And then also, Truett Cathy actually wrote or co-wrote several books, and you can go to Amazon and look at those books if any of those are of interest to you. Next slide, please, Tara. So we're here today to talk about becoming the world's most caring company and part of our success in that and why we're able to think that way. And I would just tell you right off the bat here, right out of the gate, that one of the reasons why I feel like Chick-fil-A is uniquely positioned to pull this off is because when Truett Cathy started this business, um, his principles, his beliefs, his biblical-based thinking, and his faith made him look at business a totally different way. He never looked at it just as a money-making, profit-making venture. He saw it as an opportunity to change people's lives. And that has been kind of our core culture ever since he started this back in 1964. We opened our first franchise restaurant in 1967. And since 1967, we have kind of held on. We hadn't kind of held on. We have held on very tightly to those core purposes and that core deal. But in 1982, Chick-fil-A almost went out of business. For you folks that were around during that time, especially in the United States, I'm sure it was worldwide at that point, interest rates went through the roof. We were over leveraged as a company, and the company was not growing like we wanted it to. It was growing, but it was not growing at the pace to keep up with the cost of being in business. And in 1982, Truett had a group of people around him that he called the executive committee. They had to decide, do we want to keep doing this? And that's how desperate it had gotten. They felt like they had a good thing. The business at that point was just probably $150, $200 million business. It was not huge at that point, but it was big enough to where it would have been a lot to walk away from. There was a lot of investment in. We had just built this huge building on our now property near the Atlanta airport. And it just was a tough time financially. And so Truett and this group of people went off and had a retreat. And during that retreat, they decided that they need to figure out why we are in business. And it was that time they crafted what is now our corporate purpose, which is exactly this picture out in front of our support center, our main building there in Atlanta, Georgia, where Truett is standing behind right here. They came back from that retreat and they realized, yes, we want to stay in business. And not only do we want to stay in business, but this is the reason why. And so everything that we do at Chick-fil-A, every single thing that we do, every time we open a restaurant, every time we hire someone on staff, every time we make a selection on a franchisee, we're asking ourselves all the questions through this filter of our purpose. And our purpose is to glorify God by being a faithful steward of all that's entrusted to us and to have a positive influence on all who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. Now, of course, that purpose is the backbone of everything that we do. But within that, we also have to have actions and execution and operations and all that type thing. So one of the ideas I want to throw out to you guys, and it's something that we talk about at Chick-fil-A a lot, is we want to marry the purpose, but we want to date the method of how we do it. The corporate purpose for us will never change, so we're married to it. But how we execute that underneath it can change over time, and it has to change over time. The most recent thing is the pandemic that has just occurred. We had to be very nimble, very agile to do some changes that still allowed us to execute our corporate purpose, but at the same time, we were able to stay in business and be strong in business. Next slide, please, Tara. So outside of our corporate purpose, we had our mission statement. So if you were to look at our corporate purpose as our why, this is kind of our what, and even alludes to our how we're going to do it. But when I started back in Chick-fil-A, I started as a franchisee back in the year 2000. I've been with Chick-fil-A 20 years now. 8 of those years I was an operator, and for the last 12 I've been on staff. And when I started in 2000, our mission statement was to be America's best quick service restaurant at satisfying every customer. And we really went after that. But what we found was we became very operationally focused at that point because we were making sure the food was right and we were making sure the food was safe and we wanted to make sure that our restaurants were clean and that we were doing all the things operational, which was important. But we felt like that was still a little bit one-sided. Then it evolved to probably in the mid-2000s, maybe 2006, 2007, to be America's best quick service restaurant became our mission because we wanted to be the best at everything, not just the operation. But even then, we felt like that kept us on track and we were running through everything that all the decisions we made in the company through our corporate purpose and this mission statement, we still felt like it was lacking something. So then we created what was called the Creating Raving Fans strategy. And our mission then became, we want to create raving fans, because what we realized was if we can create a raving fan, for us, a definition of a raving fan was someone who was willing to pay full price, even without any discounts on the food. So there was no coupon or any type of discount that they were coming for. They were willing to pay full price because they loved our food, loved our people, loved our restaurant company so much. They were willing to pay full price. They were also willing to tell others about us. So we realized that raving fans not only came more often, but they actually told other people. So they were willing to pay full price. They were coming more often, and then they started telling other people about us as well. So we knew we wanted to increase this raving fans base. And not only did they do that, but they actually gave us feedback too. And they said, hey, we love you so much. We want to tell you where we feel like you're falling short. So raving fans was a strategy we stayed with for several years. But again, still feeling like we were almost there, but not quite there, which led us to our now today real time, what we're trying to accomplish, and is this mission. And Tara, if you'll take us to the next slide. We want to become the world's most caring company. And we want to do that by winning hearts every day. And we really can't divorce those two comments, because to become the world's most caring company, that means we have to execute something in that every single day. We have to win people's hearts every day. We have to win the hearts of our team members. We have to win the hearts of our communities. We have to win the hearts of our guests every single day. Next slide, please. So we live in this tension in this new mission statement that is along the lines of what we have to do on a relationship side as opposed to also what we have to do on an execution or an operational side. So we constantly live in this tension. So we developed this graph to kind of show us and help us stay true north on our mission statement. And what we realized was we had some restaurant operators and some restaurants that were really good for caring for people, and they built really good relationships, but then they lacked some on the execution part. Then we had some operators and some restaurants that executed the operational part really, really well, but they lacked a little bit on the engagement part. And what we've come to realize at Chick-fil-A is you can't have one without the other. You have to have high engagement and very great and excellent execution. Because if you miss on any of those, you could fall back in the bottom left quadrant and look at like we're careless. We just don't care at all. Or if all we do is engage and we build relationships, what we find ourselves doing is that we care for people, but their food is not hot. The restaurants aren't clean, and that doesn't show full care. And then on the other line, on the other axis, if we spend our time spending all of our energy on the food and all of our energy on how clean the restaurant is and our delivery and times and that type service times, it kind of gets a little dry on that side too. So what we're shooting for is that top right quadrant where we are engaging high and we're executing high. And, you know, one of the things that we're finding right now is we're trying to figure out, okay, what does that look like? And so we're still in the throes of that. We're trying to figure that out right now. And what we find is a lot of our operators, our franchisees, have such great ideas. They are helping us figure this out. It's not something that we're sitting in an office by ourselves, closed off, trying to figure this out. We're engaging as many people as we possibly can in this journey because it is so very important. And because this aligns with our corporate purpose, right? If we want to be a positive influence on all who come in contact with Chick-fil-A, and if we want to be a faithful steward that all that God has entrusted us with, people and profit and our restaurants and our team members and our food, all of that falls underneath stewardship. It's not just one thing. And so that is why we have set out on this journey to become the world's most caring company. So next slide, please. So as we're thinking about, just parting thoughts, because I don't want to spend my time talking about the setup here. I want to get to the heart and soul of this and get to the point where you guys can hear how we're executing this. Just know that we are trying to stay married to our corporate purpose, our why. We want to make sure that we're changing and adjusting as we need to, but we're trying to be relevant with our execution of things. So as we are thinking about this, I want to leave you with three thoughts. As a business owner, as a business planner, or if you are leading a nonprofit organization or whatever your organization is, I would challenge you to think about, how you can become more effective. Because if you are in the business like we are, even though we say restaurant, we are in the people business. And we cannot forget that. But we also can't forget we're in the restaurant business. So we have to be able to do that. So I would say for you folks, as you look at your organization, your business, your nonprofit organization, you have to think, what are the things that we have to be doing? And one of my favorite words ever is the word intentionality. Because if you're intentional, that means that you are setting your plan and you're strategically betting that if I do A, I will get B. And so the first thing that I would hope that you would walk away from today is what is your intention? What is your why? What is your intentionality about where you want to be in the future? Because the further out you can see yourself, the greater the chance you are to be able to hit that goal. The second thing I would ask you to do is think about connection. Connect all the dots. What is your why? What is your what? Who is going to help you do this? And how are they going to help you do this? So when I would consult to franchisees, I would always tell them, do you know what your what is? Do you know why you're doing what you're doing? Do you know who is going to help you do it? And do you know how you're going to get there? And so are your who's and how's accomplishing your what and why? And then finally, execution. Every great laid plan is no good if you can't execute it. So I would encourage you to think about an execution model. And one of these that I think about is action, assess, and adjust. I was a former American football coach here in the States before I became a franchisee with Chick-fil-A. And I would tell you, I also coach soccer. So football to you guys, soccer for me. I knew that I could set up all type of strategy and I could try to teach and coach as best I could, but we had to execute. We had to get the ball in the goal. We had to get the ball down the field, and we had to do it methodically and systematically. And so I would ask you to think about what actions it's going to take you as you keep in mind your why, your what, who, and how. Constantly assess yourself, asking yourself the questions, are we doing what we're to set out to do? Draw it back to your why always. And don't be afraid to adjust. You've got to be willing to change directions and be flexible and agile in this environment. And remember, let your why be your guide, but to remember to also marry your purpose, your mission, stick to it, make sure it's solid, but be okay to just date the methods and the way that you execute it. So folks, I thank you. I ran a little bit longer than I wanted to on that, but I'm going to pass the baton to Andre Kennebrew, who is going to take us to our next section in the presentation. Andre?
Thank you so much, Tracy. I just enjoyed hearing all that. It was such a great reminder to me, all the things that you spoke about. Hello, One Rock family. We wish we were there with you in London at this time. Hopefully, one day we will get to travel over and spend some time with you in person. We would love to do that. What I want to try to get us to focus on right now is what is it like to care in the world right now during these times in our society? If you've not been watching the news or you hadn't been outside, you know that COVID-19 is a big part of what's going on. So there's some health challenges all over the world. You also know that there's some racial injustice and social issues, not only in the United States, but we know that this has also been something that has conquered the whole world. We know the financial challenges. We know the relational challenges. And so people are challenged right now with so many things. So the question we have to ask ourselves as leaders is, how do we care for our people? Because we do have that responsibility as leaders to care for our people. Next slide, please. As we think about these times, it reminds me of the times when Martin Luther King lived in 1968. I just recently watched a series on CNN called 1968. And if you remember, Martin Luther King was assassinated that year. Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated that year. The Vietnam War was going on that year. There were racial violence and all kind of things going on in 1968. In the back of Martin Luther King Jr.'s mind, he said this: life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And the good part about this, or the most outstanding part about this quote is that it is a persistent question that we should be asking ourselves, but it is also an urgent question. Persistent meaning tomorrow it'll be there, next week it'll be there, next month it'll be there, next year it'll be there. And the urgency of it will never go away. And the reason why that's so is because people need cared for. And so what we need in the world today is leaders that serve, but also leaders that care. Next slide, please. If you think about a model and how Chick-fil-A does things, you have to go to this thinking around, we always look to biblical things to build a foundation behind our new principles. And so several years ago, Dan Cathy came up with a term called second mile service. This became a really huge part of our hospitality mile. And so the idea is this, and it comes right from the scripture, Matthew 5:41. It says, whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, go with him a second mile. And the way that's set up is, back in that biblical time, if a Roman soldier asked a Jewish person to carry their bag, there were mile markers. And after the Jewish person had carried that bag a mile, he could stop carrying the bag and go or return back to his home or back to his family. What Jesus was teaching them, though, is not to stop at that 1 mile, but to go the second mile. But what am I trying to tell you? What it meant was to go farther than what was expected. So when Dan Cathy came to us, he says, we've got customers. They expect great food. They expect clean restaurants. They expect team members who are smiling and giving great service. So what is second mile? And second mile became those things that we did for customers that they did not expect. In the United States, in a Chick-fil-A, you order your lemonade, you order your tea, sit down at your table, you're drinking it, you don't expect someone to come up to you and say, can I refresh your beverage? In most places, they would say a refill would cost you 25 cents, 30 cents, 50 cents, but you never expect someone to say, may I refresh your beverage? For Chick-fil-A, that was an example of second mile service. Chick-fil-A turned the hospitality industry upside down with second mile service as we began to find things that we could do that customers didn't expect that was second mile. And it came from a biblical principle found in Matthew 5:41, go the second mile. And so we became famous inside Chick-fil-A, very, very, very specific term, second mile service. I say all that to say this. As we think about what caring for others are, I want to lift up for you today a scripture that will give you some background to build your plan to care for others around. So as I give you these principles, I really want you to think about like what actions would equate to this action. And we'll just go to the parable of the Good Samaritan, Luke 10:25 through 37. And you can read this and study this at your own time, but I really do think it's important that you get this in your spirit. And so this is a parable, and what has happened is the lawyer has asked Jesus a question. Next slide. The lawyer asked Jesus, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? They're having this walking conversation. Jesus replies, what is written in the law? And the lawyer responds, thou shalt love thy Lord, thy God, with all thy heart, soul, strength, mind, and thy neighbor as thyself. Jesus replied to the lawyer, he said, thou hast answered right. This do, and thou shalt live. And the lawyer was seeking to justify himself and said, Jesus, who is my neighbor? Now, before I go to the next slide, I want you to think about this. This is a lawyer, hopefully a leader in his society. And what he's looking for is actions that place him above another. He's not looking to find out ways to love or to care, but he's seeking to justify himself. We live in a world today where when people are in leadership positions, they are looking for acclaim, they are looking for praise, they are looking for people to tell them how great they are. But Jesus, he has a main lesson, and I want to give you what that main lesson is right now. If we'll look at the next slide. As you watch Jesus wash the feet, what I want you to come to this point of understanding is that you can't lead without love. And I'm going to say that 3 times like a good preacher should. Can't lead without love. I'll say it a little bit slower this time. You can't lead without love. I'm convinced in today's society that we live in, the most powerful thing that we can do to do what Tracy talked about, which is engage our team members, engage our customers, is to love them well. So we think about this scripture as Jesus being a servant, but the motivation for his servanthood is love. Tracy also talked about another thing that we try to do at Chick-fil-A, which is winning the heart. Winning the heart. Winning the heart. There is no better way to win the heart by loving someone through care. I'm going a little bit slower here because I want you to get that. You are running an organization that you want to grow. And what I'm saying to you today is you will grow that business faster and with more quality by being a leader who loves. So let's go to the next slide. The first thing I want to do is I want to tell you what you don't do if you are a leader who wants to be a leader, if you want to be a leader who loves. Let me share with you 3 ways you may not be showing care today, or how leaders don't show care. The first thing they do is they seek to justify themselves. You may be seeking to justify yourself. In other words, you are more concerned about what people think of you and that you have all the right answers. And I put down that a lawyer because that's what the lawyer was concerned about. He was trying to justify himself and he was trying to have the right answer. Don't demonstrate care when you're that kind of leader. A second thing you might be doing is you may be hiding behind your position, or you may be distracted. The work is not for me, it's for someone else. When that priest was walking, he thought, I'm the priest. I have these priestly duties. The work of serving others is for someone else. That is not for me. He was hiding behind his position, and he was distracted by doing the priestly work instead of really doing the priestly work, which is caring for people. The third thing you might be doing is you may be running away from your responsibility, from the responsibility of leadership. It is not up to me, it is up to others. This whole idea is when you see people in need, and we see this all the time, the government's going to take care of it. The church is going to take care of it. His brother's going to take care of it. His mother's going to take care of it. But it's not my responsibility. And that's the Levite as he walks by. It's just not my responsibility. When you are in the workplace, it is so easy because of our pride to justify ourselves. It's so easy for us to get distracted by all that's going on. It's so easy for us to think that someone else is going to do it. But if you are a leader who cares, this cannot be true of you. Now, what I want to do is show you the opposite of that. Let me show the 3 ways that you can demonstrate care. The first way you can do it is must see the condition of those who you lead. And when I say see, I mean you must notice with your eyes, and you must use all of your senses, including your heart, to understand what is going on. It means engaging your people. It means asking questions. It means knowing when things are different with your people than what they normally are. It means knowing when they're cast down and asking, how are you doing? And if they say everything's all right, you ask them again, how are you doing? And what I found with people I lead, I always ask them 3 times how they're doing, because by the time I get to the 3rd or 4th time, they'll really tell me what is going on. So you've got to know the condition. I think Jesus said something about that in scripture. You have to know the condition of your flock. The second thing, can show compassion and mercy for those who you can try to feel their pain. One of the things that is really hard to do with things people are going through is not really get involved because you don't know how it feels. Never been through it. You don't have to go through something though to know that it hurts. If you've experience certain things, you can relate to it. And when you can take something that someone is going through, even though you haven't gone through it, and think about something similar that you've gone through and remember the pain that you felt, it causes you to show compassion. It causes you to show mercy. When the Samaritan walked by, he saw the condition. He didn't just see the condition, but he got off his beast and he came over and he saw the hurt. He saw the blood. He saw the condition and he felt the pain in a way that he needed to move him to action. The third thing you need to do is you can act on behalf of the people you lead. You can actually do something. So what are some things you can do? You can give your team your best, which means setting aside time and money. There's nothing more valuable than your time and your money. You can give that to your team. The Good Samaritan, as you know, took the time. He was going somewhere. He was busy. He didn't have to stop, but he literally stopped, put the man on his beast, took him to the hotel, took his time, and then paid his own money to make sure he was cared of. B, you can also provide what is needed. Sometimes we don't do things because we don't think we can provide everything. There are some things that are wants, but there are some things that are needs. Andy Stanley here, as a pastor in America, he says this saying, it's one of my favorites, is do for one what you do, wish you could do for many. And so get fully involved in meeting the needs of one without worrying about the needs of all. The resources you do have. If you've got $5 and you think about it and that's the need, don't say, I'm not going to give that because I want to have something to give over here or to give over here. Customize meeting the needs of each individual based on the needs that that individual has. I want to give you some very practical examples before I end my talk. I think about Truett Cathy, and you heard Tracy talk about him early and him starting a company. He was truly a man who cared, and he was truly a man who shared with all of us, operators, staff, how to care. I'll tell you the story of there was a young person that worked with Truett who was going off to college and he didn't have any clothes. And Truett sent them to the store and told the owner, give him whatever he needs to go to school. And he did it without asking how much it was going to cost. He sent a number of people to college. He's paid for them, their classes, and for them to go to college. When customers would have some kind of tragedy like death in their family, he would send over Chick-fil-A to feed those folks. There are so many stories that we hear from so many people about Truett, and about every time he saw someone who was in need, that he helped meet that need, that if you haven't heard a story, you've not heard about Truett, because you cannot separate Truett and the care and love he shared for his family, to his team members, and to his staff. I had an opportunity to someone today, and this is the most recent story I have. It's one of our mall operators here in Atlanta. COVID-19 caused his restaurant to be closed, which meant no income until the restaurant opened back up. His wife was due with a baby. He got a call saying, basically, you're not going to be able to come to the hospital. Be prepared to call the paramedics. The paramedics will have to deliver your baby. So you got two situations here. This family that's about to have their third baby, they're concerned about whether they're going to be able to deliver in the hospital or they're going to have to be delivered at home. And on the same day, they get the news that the restaurant is being closed and they won't have income. Here's how you care for someone. The story got out about this, what was going on with this young couple. And when they did go to the hospital, which they did, to have the baby, when they got back home, their front porch was covered with diapers and baby material because they knew a baby was being born, which was the need that they had was for baby material, and enough was provided because the income was lost. And so as I go to this last slide, I want to share this with you because this is how I want you to think about building your plan. I want you to build your plan with verbs. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him. And he went to him and bound up his wound, pouring all oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. And on the morrow when he departed, he took out 2 pence, and gave them to the host, and said to him, Take care of him. And whosoever thou spendest more, when I come again, I will repay thee. Which of these three thinkest thou was neighbor unto him that fell among the thieves? And he said that he that showed mercy. And then said Jesus to him, Go and do thou likewise. One Rock family, what I want to say to you is go and do likewise. Every single word that you see that's underlined is a verb. Caring for people is action. What can you do for your employees to show care? And it starts with verbs. As I wrap up, I get ready to introduce Ruthie Sykes. Ruthie is an operator in St. Joseph, Maryland. And behind her will come a young lady by the name of Karen Arangua. They are actually operators, franchisees. They are actually doing what I just talked about every single day with their team members and their customers. They're going to share with you how they are helping us become the world's most caring company based on the principles that I just shared with you. Ruthie, welcome. Come on board.
Thank you, Andre. So as Andre said, I'm Ruthie Seitz. I'm an operator in St. Joseph, and you see on your screen in front of you 2 pictures of my team. The picture on the right is a picture of my team pre-COVID. Happy, loving family, excited to work. And then the picture you see on the left is my team smack dab in the middle of COVID. What I love about this second picture, the one on the left, is even with their faces covered with those masks, you can see the joy, you can see the smiles on their faces, and you can see that that really is a team that is cared for. So that right there, that's my heart and soul right there, just caring for my team. So how do I care for my team? Well, first of all, it's a job far too important for me to undertake by myself. I have a team of over 100 employees, and I know that I would fail miserably at showing each and every one of them care if it were all up to me. But thankfully, the Lord has blessed me with an army of leaders that support me, and they stand in the gap. They meet the needs of our team, and they shower them with care. One reason I know that I need this army of leaders is because by nature, I am painfully shy and introverted. But even as an introvert, I can show my team that I care. I just have to do it in simple, consistent, and non-flashy ways. Chick-fil-A's founder, who you've heard about, Truett Cathy, once said, "You don't have to make the headlines to make a difference." And thank goodness for that, because I stay far, far from the spotlight. First way that I show care to my team is by getting to know each of them individually. We take the time to build relationships and get to know our team's goals, concerns, needs. Where are they at in life right now, and where do they desire to go? In order to be truly intentional about caring for our team, we must first know them. The more we walk with and engage our team members, the more that they feel cared for. Truett also said, "How do you know someone is in need of encouragement? They're breathing." And that is so true. My leadership team takes the time to encourage each and every staff member, regardless of how they show up to work. We have team members that come in and you can just tell it's maybe not the best day in their life. And what do? We meet them with encouragement. If they come in and they're excited and they're bouncing off the walls and they're ready to go and excited to greet every guest, what do? We meet them with encouragement, because you never know what pain a person might be hiding, and it's our job to care. I had a leader who moved away. She worked for me for a while and then decided she wanted to move away from home, went and worked at another Chick-fil-A for about a year or so. And during that time, she had made some pretty poor life choices. Channing realized that she needed to move back home to St. Joseph to be near her family and her friends so that she could once again get control of her life and be at a place where she feels safe to make the right choices. So she reached out to me and asked if we could talk. She wanted to come back to work, and she had said that Chick-fil-A was the place where she felt safe and she knew that she could grow and mature. And I welcomed her back to the team. Channing and I met at least once a month, and we discussed her progress, talked about any challenges she had or anything that she, wanted to try and take on, and we talked about life outside of Chick-fil-A. After a few months and seeing how well things were going, I asked her if she'd be willing to take over our training program and really lead it. And that meant developing our crew trainers. That meant welcoming on all new staff and making sure that we're taking charge of their development. She has a natural ability to make fast friends with new team members. She made them feel welcomed, and she helped equip them with the tools that they need to become successful at Chick-fil-A. And she was excited and thankful for the opportunity. So I knew immediately this was a good fit for our store, and I was thankful that we had done this. It was a huge blessing to our team. But I didn't realize how much of a blessing it was until just this past month. You see, I have a new team leader named Nick. When a team member expresses interest in becoming a leader, they have to meet with me, and I find out their why. It's not a good idea to have a leader come on board if they're wanting the leadership just for the title or just promotion. Are they really invested in growing the team and doing what's best for our culture? So I asked Nick, why do you want this position within Chick-fil-A? And Nick told me when he started at Chick-fil-A, St. Joseph, about a year ago, he was in a very dark and bad place in his life. He told me that many times he had contemplated taking his own life, and I would have never known this. To know Nick, the most upbeat, loud, funny, off-the-wall, excited team member who just wants everybody to have a good time. That's Nick every day, day in and day out. But Nick told me that Channing had taken the time to get to know him when he started. She kept in close contact with him, and she knew him well enough that even just the slightest thing, she would know maybe he was having an off day, and she'd take the time to text him. She even included him in family gatherings when she knew he had no place to go or no plans. She was a real lifeline for him. And Nick just thanked me. He thanked God for Channing, for Chick-fil-A's environment of caring. He said that because we truly live this culture of caring, he wanted to be part of it, and his desires to be available if, heaven forbid, another team member ever was going through a dark time and needed somebody to care for them. He wanted to be that person. And I just think God brought Channing back to us so that she could be there in Nick's time of need. And what a great blessing it was. So how do we build this culture of caring? Well, our leadership team finds a way to model care, to coach with care, and discipline with care. And that all looked a lot simpler about 6 months ago. But 2020 has been a year of uncertainty for us. We've had to adapt. When the pandemic hit, and then followed by riots and civil unrest, we had to take notice of all the events happening in the world and see what impact it was having on our team. And therefore, we doubled down on our efforts to make St. Joseph Chick-fil-A a place of calm and respite from the worries of the world. We found out that team members, kids, were now having to support their households because when the government shut down businesses in town, many of their parents had lost their jobs. Well, that leads to feelings of fear and anxiety. And when high school students, seniors, had their final year of school end without the usual pomp and circumstance, no prom, no graduation, they had feelings of loss and sadness. So we asked God for wisdom. We knew that our response had to be quick and meaningful. Well, the first thing we knew we needed to do is meet the basic needs of our team. So we set up a free pantry with food, health, and hygiene items for anyone to take what they might need at home. And then I brought my sewing machine from home. Before masks were required or even suggested, I began sewing them for my team, just in case. Those are the masks that you see in that photo on the left. Then as I was sewing for my team, I had team members express to me their concerns about family members with compromised immune systems, or friends and other people within their lives that they might need a mask for. So started churning out masks for friends and family members of team members without charge. Then during that time, I had the awesome experience of several team members say, I really would like to learn how to sew, and I've never had the opportunity. So I got the opportunity to then sit down with some team members and give them a quick lesson on, here's how you run a sewing machine. And then they were equipped with the tools to be able to go home and make masks for their friends and family. We closed our dining room before any other restaurant in town. And I knew that that was a priority for me because I want nothing more than for my team to be healthy and well. But when I made the decision to close my dining room, I then realized that all of my service employees are going to be working outside now, and summer's right around the corner. So having them work in that heat is not exactly ideal. So my leadership team and I got together and we decided there are some basic needs we have to meet here as well. We ordered ice vests, personal fans, cooling towels, event tents to provide shade, and we keep a fully stocked snack station within the restaurant for any and all team members when they need to come in and recharge and get their energy levels up. Then we realized, okay, parents are out of work, and these families of our employees would not be able to enjoy a meal from a restaurant because of the cost. So we sent a message to all of our employees, even the ones that weren't working now because they might be caring for somebody with a weakened immune system, or they were notified by their doctor that they needed to self-isolate. We told them all we missed them. We miss working together. We miss being the giant family. And we wanted to show our love and appreciation for them by allowing all of our team members, regardless of whether they were currently working or not, to be able to feed their families once a week during the pandemic. We told them we wanted them to be able to share a good meal with their loved ones, even during lockdown, and to embrace and cherish that family time. We have one team member with a weakened immune system who's an absolute prayer warrior. Brandy knew early on she wasn't going to be able to work during the pandemic, and it broke her heart. She is the opposite of me. She's an extrovert, and she craves being around people all the time. So I knew this was going to be especially hard on her. But knowing what a prayer warrior she was, and knowing how much we need prayer right now, I called her and asked her if she would mind if I continued to pay her, if she would at least once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, reach out to every member of our team and see what needs do they maybe have, them or their family. How can we meet those needs? And how can we specifically pray for them? That's been wonderful for Brandy, because for somebody who needs that time with other people, who has to self-isolate, she was really feeling connected to the team and feeling like she was still a part of the world. So that was wonderful. Then we saw a need in the community, small businesses that were in real danger of closing. So we purchased several $1,000s worth of gift cards to various businesses throughout town, and we gave them to our team as a thank you for their hard work. And then they were able to use those gift cards with their families. Truett also said, nearly every moment of every day, we have the opportunity to give something to someone else. Our time, our love, our resources. And that's what we're trying to do now in St. Joseph during this very difficult time. We ask each and every leader during our director meetings, how can we demonstrate care? We ask that every week. And the biggest way we have identified to help our team is to help our team members grow and develop. That's been the one theme throughout every week. Help them grow and develop. My desire is for each team member to become the best version of themselves. I know the majority will not work at Chick-fil-A forever, but I want them to look back and say, hey, when I was at Chick-fil-A St. Joseph, I found my potential and I really tapped into it. And the growth that I had during that time might have been really hard, but it was also really worth it. So we have to give them the tools that they haven't had before. What we do for our team members right now is we work with their growth and development. We've begun cultural intelligence training, which is done through a company called Berlitz. In response to civil unrest and social injustice in the world, we wanted to help our team members become more aware and more sensitive to our guests and to each other. And that training is now completed by each team member during their orientation. We've already seen a world of good done through this training. Team members coming up and saying, I didn't realize how I might have been insensitive before. Or, hey, I've seen some situations that I might have encountered here at Chick-fil-A show up in these videos. And it's really helped me learn how to navigate that. For my leaders, we have leadership development manuals that they work through. It helps them learn what it really means to be a servant leader, a leader who shows up for their team consistently and faithfully. I've invested weekly coaching sessions with a leadership coach for each one of our leaders in training. And for our current leaders, we use WildSpark. And that provides a leadership theme each month, along with small digestible content for each of them to watch and then apply to their lives as a leader. It's very impactful content, and our leaders really, really enjoy it. Those investments have been well received by our team. Truett said, the one thing I enjoy more, that I take more joy in than anything else in the world, is seeing young people develop. And I tell you, I couldn't agree more. That's our job as a leader, is to help people grow and develop. And in doing so, we show them care. We show them true care. So just in summary, before I turn this over to Karen, 3 things. Know your people. Know them individually. Know what they need. Know what they desire. Secondly, create a culture that truly cares for them and meets them where they are in life. And third, develop them. Develop your team and help them grow. Even when they leave, help them with the tools that they will need to become successful in life. Now, Karen's going to talk to you a little bit about how she's showing care to her team and her community in Aurora. Karen?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ruthie. That was great. Really, really great. People always ask me what is the best part about Chick-fil-A, and I say, oh, it is absolutely the people. I love my people. I love my team. They are the whole reason why I went into Chick-fil-A. And then they ask me, well, what's the most challenging part about the restaurant business? And I say, oh, it's the people. They can take you to heaven and they can take you to hell. And sometimes it's within minutes of each other. But in all seriousness, Truett would always often say that he wasn't in the chicken business, he was in the people business. And I certainly feel very much like that. They truly are the foundation of everything that we do and every decision that we make in the business. I try to always make it through the filter of how is it going to affect my team? How is it going to affect my customers? And, you know, you hear a lot that there's no business without customers. Well, I flip it for myself and say, for me, there's no business without a team, because if you don't have a team, you can't serve your customers. So before I get into some examples that we do into the restaurant, add to a lot of the examples that Ruthie gave, I want to talk a little bit about how I had forgotten this several years ago. I had really lost myself and forgotten why I did go into Chick-fil-A. And that why is so important because it really took away, not knowing it really took away my passion, and it took away my focus and the culture in the restaurant. It's not that it was horrible, but it really did start to suffer a little bit. And so I went on a retreat. And for me, this is a very big deal because I'm a wife and I'm a mom of 4 kids, and silence is not something that I'm very used to at all. And so this retreat, one of the requirements was that we would take 6 to 8 hours and we would go off into a field somewhere by ourselves with no technology and nothing around us, and just sit and be quiet and silent and pray and just really focus on why we went into the businesses that we went to. And it was one of the most valuable things I ever have done, because I did find my way back to my why. And that was really about building relationships with people. And I think that, you know, part of building a relationship for me is that I want it to be one that is lasting. I don't want it to be, I know that I'm not going to have these team members for a long period of time. Most of them, I'm like a bridge to the place that they really ultimately want to be. And so my job is to make sure that I maximize the time that they're with me, that I develop them and grow them. Ruthie gave some great examples of ways that she does that in her restaurant. We do very similar things as well. The Berlitz is a great example of something currently with cultural intelligence that's absolutely vital. We also have a leadership development that we're doing right now with our team. With the leadership team. It's a once a month, really for them finding out what their why is and what their values are and where do they align with my values and my whys. So that, you know, those are the things that I think are absolutely valuable for them. But you've really got to make sure that once you do find that why, there's these other foundations that you have to have before your team can really go deep with you and feel truly cared for and truly cared for personally. And so I want to talk about some of the foundations that you have to have prior to that. One of the most important by far is ensuring that you're hiring the right people. You've got to hire people that have similar values and want to follow your why and want to grow that. You know, there are people that, you know, are wonderful people, but they just might not be the best the best fit for your business. And so, you know, ensuring that you are asking the right questions in the interview and that you're aligning them with you, with what's important to you. It is one of the most foundational things that you can ever do to ensure that you're able to build a great culture. Your culture will break the minute that you bring somebody in that really doesn't have similar values that you have. This leads into the ability also to provide a safe environment for your team. I think we've seen a lot of the importance of providing a safe environment during COVID, not just with you know, safety of them not feeling like there's going to be robberies or anything like that, but COVID took it to another completely different level, providing masks for the team. We had one of our team members whose mom made masks. I wish I could sew like Ruthie, but I don't know how to do that. So thank goodness I had a team member's mom that was just all in on providing those masks for our team. And it was absolutely imperative and wonderful. You know, the other thing is we provided gloves for our team. We had provided a station for how they can stay safe. Sanitizer was in very short supply, as everybody knows. We provided wipes for them. And so, you know, we had a station where they could go and grab kind of similar, you know, things that they needed that they weren't able to get at home. But that safe environment, they have to feel safe. And if they don't feel safe, then again, they're not going to feel truly cared for. Another foundational piece is feeling like they truly can provide for their family and not feeling like they're exploited by you as a business owner. I just think, you know, we have an incredible ability. A lot of times when you have a successful business, God blesses you with, you know, the ability to go on incredible vacations and to buy nice cars and to buy nice homes. But I never want my team members to feel like I'm doing that off of their backs. And so being careful about, you know, just being cognizant of the things that you have and how you're talking about them and what you're showing, I think is absolutely important too, because they've got to feel like you do value them and that you're not utilizing them. And that really starts with making sure that they can provide for their family. You know, you may not be able to start there, but as they grow with you, even if they're not in leadership, if they add a certain value, you know, to you, to the business and to the other team members, being able to provide them financially, you know, with greater resources is a huge blessing that we have. And I will always take care of my team before I take care of, you know, feeling like I'm going to sacrifice, you know, them for profits. So for me, I always feel like if I can give to my team, the profits will take care of themselves. And again, during COVID, a good example of this is when everything started and I didn't know if we were going to open or close. As a business owner, I can recover very quickly. I have resources, you know, financial resources. And so I promised my team that I would not, that they would be paid. And I was terrified, but, you know, I just kind of took a leap of faith and I thought God somehow will protect us. And it certainly is what happened. We were down 25% the first month. The team was fully committed. I cut no hours. And the next month we were flat. And then the next month after that, we were up like 3%. And I really feel like it's because the team was committed to making sure that they were able to help me keep the business going. So those three things are important. Once you have those things, then you can really start working on, you know, loving on your team and empowering them to love on, you know, the customers as well. So part of our promise to our team members is that in every moment they matter, and they matter to each other, and they matter to the customers as well. And so, you know, how do they demonstrate to the customers that they care for them? I'm going to give you some examples that we empower the team to do. One example is they, you know, are empowered to look and watch and see if somebody has, you know, birthday packages on a table. Then we've got somebody that'll go over and say, oh my goodness, what are you guys celebrating? And, you know, if they say it's a birthday or an anniversary, then we'll, you know, give them free desserts and we'll make a big deal. We'll bring cows out. We'll bring things for them to come back. we have a hospital near us, and there, we have new babies coming in, and so we've got these little onesies that say "Mama's chicken nugget" on it, or "Mama's little nugget," I think, and so we'll give them that with a couple of free meals for them to come back, for the mom and dad to come back and be able to, have a meal without having to prepare things. And the team gets so excited and so into it. They also, every Christmas, we have a list that they can put down their regular guests, and we provide them with a little gift that they personally can give to their guests that they've built a relationship with. And I think that, once they see that care that they can provide to other people, they start to really look for additional ways that they can do that. Showing that they matter to each other. This is one of my favorites because the team spontaneously does this. And it's certainly watching them care for each other is amazing and fun. So they'll do like potlucks, for somebody's birthday or for a baby or for an anniversary. They will take up a collection. We had a team member that had a terrible loss, and I saw them collecting money. I was like, "What are you guys doing?" And they said, this person, one of these team members, had lost somebody, and I had just found out about it, and they were collecting money in order to be able to help him and his family during that terrible, terrible time. Some of the other examples that they do for each other is, things like graduation, diaper runs, big, buying diapers for somebody that's in need, a team member that they know, doesn't have as much as maybe another team member. So these are just a few examples of things that they do. Lots of celebrations. And then, for us, how do we care about the team? How do I personally care for them? How do I make sure that they feel important? There's intentional things that we do. And some of those intentional things are recognizing things like birthdays. So individual birthdays, in addition to the potluck that the team spontaneously does, we do little birthday cakes for everybody. We recognize their anniversaries. 1 year anniversary, they get a jacket with their name embroidered on it. And for a little while, I didn't think this was very important to them. And I was a little worried that maybe it wasn't enough, but the team values these jackets so much because we have community jackets that they share, and they have to move their name tag on the outside. And man, people know exactly when their anniversary is because they are asking for that jacket because they don't want to wear those community jackets. We have a team member appreciation week that we do. We do lots of fun things. We have a candy day where we bring in every type of candy you could possibly imagine and have it there for the team. We do eat whatever you want day. We've done massages for the team where we bring in masseuses and they get to run back and have a massage. And then it all ends with a team member appreciation party on an event, usually pool party. So these are just, any way that you can find little things that you can do for your team. I think Ruthie mentioned, it doesn't have to be these big, grandiose ideas. It can be small little things that you do, just little points where you find that there's an opportunity to care for your team. So that will lead to your team spontaneously doing things for others as well. One of my favorite stories is I had a team member that, it was snowing outside and they were leaving. They had clocked off, and I looked outside and snow had covered all of the cars and everything. And they were out cleaning off every customer's car and every team member's car. And it was the most beautiful thing because it was their gift that they just gave from their heart. And I didn't tell them to do it. It certainly wasn't something we had talked about. And it was just a really special thing to see. So how do you start building care for your business? I just want to summarize in 3 things. So first, know your why. That is absolutely important. If you don't know it, take some time and find it. One of the best ways to do this is ask your team. Ask your team what they think is important to you and what they feel that your values are. And then go on a retreat. Take some time to think about it and find it. To separate yourself from technology, because it's really going to take you just praying and meditating on why you're in the business that you're in. From there, you can build a picture of what your culture is currently, and then you can build it where you want to be. It really will give you some good ideas of where you want to be. The other thing is ensure those foundations are right. Hiring, do you have the right leaders in place? Are you hiring the right team members? Are you asking the right questions during, your interviews? An example of this is I asked a team member, one of my favorite questions is to say, tell me about a time that you did something for somebody that they didn't expect. And one of my favorite stories was Brittany, had said that she was down in Mexico and they were building these houses, which already, number one, shows that she cares, that she's giving something beyond herself. But she said that they had just enough money to build this one room house for this mom. And she said, "Oh, I love this house so much. I wish it was pink." She's like, "That's my favorite color. And I just wish that it was pink." And so Brittany, with her friends, they collected all this money and they bought the paint and they painted the house on their own. And when the mom saw it, she was just, of course, overcome. When I hear things like that, I know that's a team member that cares. I know that they're going to help me build relationships in the business and with their fellow team members. And then, I lost my earbud there. And then, ensuring that the values are the same and that they feel valued and cared for by providing a safe environment for them. And then evaluate your compensation package. Are you providing at least enough for them to not feel like they're getting exploited, or they can start providing for their family? Finally, develop intentional ways to show care for your team. That is absolutely important as well. So a great book to read. And I'm sorry, Tara, I forgot to tell you to advance the slides. There we go. Okay, so this is a package that we put together that the team wanted to give out to somebody. And here's my team. And then we do a graduation party for them. And these are all of our graduates for 2020. I always do a 5-star dinner that we take them out for. And then if you could go to the next slide. So knowing your why, ensuring the foundation, and then developing intentional ways. This is a great book to read, The Power of Moments by Chip and Dan Heath. This book talks about how do you maximize moments that are already existing in your business. Things like when you hire somebody, their first day of work, how do you maximize that? Once you do intentional moments, you'll start to be able to identify some of those smaller ways that you can care for them. So I think, in closing, it's important to remember that care itself, it's not a big idea. It's not in those big and grandiose moments that you're going to build relationships. It's in these beautiful little tiny moments that we see that we need to act upon to truly demonstrate care. And Mother Teresa, I think, sums it up very nicely that not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll kick it back to Tracy.
Okay. Well, thank you, Karen, for sharing that with us. Thank you to Ruthie and Andre as well. I will leave us with a closing thought here, and then I'll pass it over to Mark for question and answer time. But there's a pastor here, many of you might have heard of, Rick Warren, who is pastor of Saddleback Church out in Southern California. And he wrote a book several years ago, and you might know the book. It was called 40 Days of Purpose. And one of the things the takeaways in that book was probably the very first sentence in the book. And if you read the book, you open it up to the first chapter, the very first sentence in that book says, it's not about you. And it's true. It's not about you. But as the leader of your business or the leader of your organization, one of the things I always tell leaders, always, when you're leading people, it's not about you, but it's incredibly dependent on you. It's dependent on how you care, how you love, your intentionality, and what you do. It's all about engaging and executing. And I hope you guys are encouraged by what you heard today. And we're going to open it up to questions for Mark. And so I will turn it over to him. And I think we'll be talking to a few of you later on this afternoon personally. But we do want to thank you again for allowing us to be here today. And we hope you will just have a wonderful time learning. And may God bless each of you personally and in your endeavors. Thanks.